This week, we're diving deep into the eerie world of banshees, those haunting spirits from Irish folklore that have captured our imaginations for centuries. Clutch your lucky charms and get ready for a wild ride through the misty hills of Ireland and beyond. Let's start by unraveling the mysterious origins of these supernatural beings. The word banshee comes from the old Irish phrase Bean Sid, which means fairy woman. These ethereal creatures are deeply rooted in Gaelic Celtic folklore and are believed to be remnants of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the ancient gods of Ireland. The Tuatha Dé Danann, once mighty gods, are defeated by the invading Milesians. Forced underground, they retreat to their magical mounds, or Sidhi, becoming known as the As Sidhi, or People of the Hills. It's from this mythical lineage that our banshee friends emerge. Now, you might wonder, what does a banshee look like? Well, my friends, that's where things get interesting. Banshees are shapeshifters of sorts, with appearances that can vary wildly depending on who's telling the story. Some say they're breathtakingly beautiful women with long, flowing hair, either raven black, copper, or brilliant gold, and mesmerizing eyes full of tender pity. Others describe them as, well, let's just say less aesthetically pleasing. On the other end of the spectrum, we have accounts of banshees as wild, disheveled creatures that embody squalor and despair. And for those who like their folklore extra spicy, there are even descriptions of banshees as something wholly diabolical and terrifying. Talk about range. The banshee's cry is the stuff of nightmares. It's been described as everything from a mournful keen to a blood-curdling scream. Imagine the most heart-wrenching cry of grief mixed with a dash of supernatural terror. That's the banshee's signature sound. This haunting wail isn't just for show, though. In Irish tradition, the banshee's cry is believed to warn of impending death. It's like a supernatural early warning system, but instead of a gentle ping on your phone, you get a soul-shattering shriek in the dead of night. Fun times, right? Some banshees are seen as protectors of sorts. Many believe that every Irish family has its banshee, a spirit that watches over family members in both life and death. These more benevolent banshees are said to ensure that the deceased passes safely to the other side. It's like having your very own supernatural escort service. On the flip side, we have the banshees that are a bit more intense. These are the ones that appear as frightening old witches, emitting howls that can shatter glass and torment the living. Some legends even claim that looking directly at these banshees can cause instant death. Now, you might think banshees are strictly an Irish thing, but these wailing women have made quite the international tour. In Scotland, they're known as the Bean Nibe or the Washerwoman, often seen washing the bloody clothes of those about to die. Over in Wales, they've got the Grachwai Ruby or Hag of the Mist. But the banshee hasn't just stuck to the British Isles. These ghostly gals have crossed the pond, with sightings reported in various parts of the United States. It seems even supernatural beings aren't immune to the allure of the American dream. Now, let's put on our thinking caps and dive into the psychology behind the banshee myth. The banshee legend likely evolved from the Irish custom of keening, the practice of singing laments at funerals.
Wailing at funerals is something that's been practiced for ages around the world and is still practiced in many parts of the world today. But we in modern day Western culture tend to want to be a bit more subdued or sophisticated or controlled in our grief. But in Ireland, up until the mid-20th century, wailing at wakes was very common, and they called it keening. And essentially what would happen is these women in the community who served as lead keeners, they called them the banquinta in that culture, they would come to the home of the person who had died, and the whole community would gather together. And the lead keener would lead the community in wailing and mourning the person who had died. And how it would go is generally the banquinta would start by just soft moaning or soft crying, and then it would grow into a louder wail. Sometimes they would sing songs or utilize lyrics as tributes to the person who had died, but oftentimes it would just kind of erupt into this chaotic scream and chaotic wail. And everyone in the room would join them, and they would all wail together and lament the person who had just died, but they would also wail over loved ones who had passed away maybe years ago, remembering the pain of that particular loss together as a community. You know, these lead keeners would often serve as midwives in the community as well. And so they were women who knew well that thin space between life and death, that liminal space between existence and non-existence. You know, we all need permission in our grief to fall apart sometimes. Permission to lose all decorum, permission to name how truly awful and terrifying death can be and how shattered we are. The ritual of keening makes space for that. The ritual of keening gives us permission to fall apart.
But why did this evolve into the terrifying banshee we know today? That's where human psychology comes into play. The banshee myth taps into some of our deepest fears: death, the unknown, and the idea that our fate is sealed. The banshee's wail serves as a personification of the grief and fear we associate with death. It's a way of giving form to the formless, of making tangible the intangible concept of mortality. The banshee isn't just a spooky story. It's a significant part of Irish cultural identity. Even in today's modern, tech-savvy world, the legend of the banshee continues to captivate Irish imaginations. It's a link to the past, a connection to ancient traditions and beliefs that have shaped Irish culture for centuries. The banshee represents a unique blend of pre-Christian and Christian beliefs, showcasing the complex religious history of Ireland. It's a testament to the enduring power of folklore in shaping national identity. Believe it or not, reports of banshee encounters continue to this day. From rural Ireland to urban America, people still claim to hear that chilling wail in the night. But beyond literal belief, the banshee has found new life as a metaphor. In literature and art, the banshee often represents the unheard voices of women, the power of grief, or the inevitability of fate. As we wrap up our journey through the world of banshees, let's take a moment to appreciate the rich tapestry of folklore they represent. From ancient Celtic goddesses to modern pop culture icons, banshees have evolved with us, reflecting our changing fears, beliefs, and values. They remind us of the power of storytelling, the endurance of cultural traditions, and the universal human experience of grappling with mortality. So the next time you hear an unexplained wail in the night, who knows? It might just be a banshee, keeping watch over the thin veil between life and death.